for sure. Talking about your previous tutorials, CREA, why don't we start with your background, because there's been an influx of new clones into the ecosystem, and I'm sure they weren't around to see how everything started, you know, with the loot pod and the space pod and the little bits and bobs that you amazing creators were making for us all and airdropping them for free. Those days were so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, it feels like it was forever ago, and we're talking about just under a year ago, actually. And it was such a funny and exciting experience, to be honest. I remember Benoit first reaching out to me, proposing me to join the team, and it was super exciting. And for the OGs in the community, they may remember that originally, when the loot pods and space pods dropped, Artifact announced Pod Explorers, which was basically me and Beb, and our role was basically to be the creative symbols in the community and help the community build on their loot pods and space pods. Creating cool 3D items that it could use to personalize their loot pods, and that's when we had our creator challenges, etc. So it was really fun. And especially at the beginning, we had so many creative projects to work on. And one of these creative projects was creating tutorial videos, which are still available on the Artifact YouTube channel. And those first YouTube tutorials were there to teach people how to use programs such as Blender and Photoshop, and especially how to use GLB files, which are the files that are supported by the loot pod and space pod. And it was so fun to receive the outstanding support from the community and seeing all the amazing creations. And if you remember, again, it feels like ages ago, but the creator challenge that we had, where people had the chance to customize in their loot pods, I remember the submissions for that contest, and it was absolutely amazing. And everybody was watching the YouTube tutorials, learning how to use Blender. And I feel like it's such a powerful program. It's a free program that anybody can use. And it's so cool that people can express their creativity by maybe just creating renders or creating something very, very dope. And for me personally, I mean, I remember talking to some of the community members. They've been asking me how I've created my 3D wearables, if perhaps I use some fancy software like Glow or Marvelous Designer. And of course, those are great programs to create wearables, but I actually just use Blender, which again, it's a free program. So I invite anybody who feels creative and maybe has a passion for fashion or just creating stuff to try using Blender, and they can come up with their own wearables and their own collections to personalize their CloneX avatars. I think the more the community is involved, the more the community is creative, then it's a win-win for everybody. And it's a great way to, learn a new program, which I think can be very, very beneficial.
CREA, I know you also got some skills in Photoshop. I say some because it's definitely more than that. But do you mind telling us a little bit about your background in Photoshop?
Yeah, actually, before I started learning how to use 3D programs, I was using Photoshop quite a lot. Other than working on NFTs and digital fashion wearables, one of the things that I work on is I produce illustrations, because I've always had a big passion for art ever since I was very young. And I do commissions and illustrations for different publishing houses and stuff like that. And I mainly use Photoshop. And even when you're using, people might think that 2D and 3D type softwares are very different from one another, and there's no real bridge between them. But once you start learning how to use 3D programs, which I think it's like a natural evolution from using 2D programs, you start to realize that it's more like an ecosystem where you could use both programs at the same time to really achieve new heights. So for example, if you're designing wearables, in this case specifically, and you want to create a diffuse map for your wearable, maybe you want to change its colors, its patterns, etc. You could use Blender, but if you use Photoshop, you have much more freedom to customize your wearable and make it more unique. So, for example, in my creative process, I use Photoshop as much as I use Blender, especially when I'm working on the design for these wearables. And so, yeah, I also remember doing some of the Twitch streams or tutorials on Photoshop, and those went really well as well. My advice is to just, experiment with as many programs as you can, because it's really satisfying, and it really opens your mind creatively to start working on so many new different things.
I definitely feel that, because as soon as I open up a software that is completely alien to me, there's that, overwhelming sense of despair. And it's so scary. You don't know where to start. It's just too much. But then once you start learning it, getting the shortcuts down, it's amazing. It feels like you got magic at your fingertips, creating out of nothing. So out of all the softwares that you use, would you say Blender is your favorite, or are you a Photoshop person at heart?
Oh, my love for Photoshop is never ending, and I'm still learning about it every single day. But that's crazy, actually. Like I still continue to learn new things every single day by watching, tutorials on Instagram or YouTube, etc. But to add to your point, absolutely. Some of these programs, the first time you open them and you try to use them, it might seem very daunting, because I always call them like iceberg programs, because you might think that you know some of it, but actually there's an ocean of more information that needs to be discovered yet. And you only get better as you practice. I initially started working, I mean, I initially started using Photoshop when I was 12, but I remember opening Photoshop for the first time and being absolutely confused. I had no idea what I was doing. And honestly, after like a few days, I stopped using it, because when I was a kid, I used to do mainly hand drawing stuff, not digital drawings. But then, since I wanted to explore new ways to design, and since I was, like I said before, since I was doing commissions and working for publishing houses and doing digital illustrations, then I had a reason to actually learn the program. And so with my experience, I've noticed that if you really want to learn a program, first find the reason why you want to learn that program, and then it becomes much easier. And obviously, there are so many sources of information out there, from YouTube tutorials to, well, if you're old-fashioned, books, if you want to learn how to use Photoshop or other programs. But what's really important is having that goal. For me also, when it came to learning how to use Blender, I've always been interested in wearables, maybe specifically shoes or hoodies. And so I started using Blender to design those things, because I thought it was really cool to then, for example, 3D print them and do that kind of stuff. Or even at the beginning, when I was designing stuff for Dude Pods, that was something quite new for me, but I had a reason to learn these new aspects about Blender. And so that really helped me to improve my skills.
I would just like to say, though, that the library book concept of looking up a physical book to walk your way through a digital program, it feels like a memory I've almost forgotten. The pictures that they used to have in those things to like walk you through how to use all kinds of programs like Word document and all that. I've forgotten those exist, and so it just kind of gave me a little bit of like nostalgia, like, oh, we've come so far. Like the Web 2 isn't walking us through Web 3 anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And back in the day, it was actually quite a good tool, because programs didn't receive that many updates, and if it did receive an update, it wouldn't really change all that much. But now Blender is a good example. Like from version 3 to 3.2, like things look completely different, and so obviously you're better off using YouTube and just scroll through the most recent videos so that you can actually see the most relevant ones, because even Blender videos from last year may not be useful anymore because these versions get updated constantly each time.
Yeah, let's just go back to looking at books for information. This is irrelevant, but relevant at the same time. I rewatch Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I don't know if you guys know that show. At least once a year during winter, because it's my cozy show. you all have cozy shows, right? Yeah, and they look through these ancient books trying to find things, and he would like open it up and he'll be like, aha, I found it. No, you didn't. How, like, you can't search for books. I am just so lucky. I feel so good that I was born around this time in life. But like AI coming in is like scaring me a little bit, but at the same time, I'm counting my blessings. So CREA, talking about AI, have you ever contemplated using it in your work, or have you already?
Well, that's a really good question because that's all what people are talking about. But when it comes to AI, well, let's start talking about like AI and 3D design specifically. I mean, I've heard some people developing tools where, for example, you can just scan an item by taking pictures, and the AI tool is able to create a 3D file like immediately. I know people are working on those types of software, but I don't think AI so far has really been impactful in the 3D world, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I might be wrong, but as much, for example, like Midjourney has. Like, for example, if you want to create a new illustration, if you use Midjourney and create like a AI render, the results you can get are absolutely amazing. But I'm not sure if there are actually 3D AI software that are able to replicate, for example, wearables. I'm not sure if they're available, but it's probably coming. And when it comes to like the moral side of things, I know that a lot of people are scared of AI, and at the beginning, I was quite paranoid as well. But the more I use it myself with programs like ChatGPT, for example, I don't see how it will actually completely replace people. If anything, I think it will make people 10 times more productive because, for example, that's what it has been doing recently for me. With, for example, writing emails or doing repetitive tasks. I think AI will be able to eliminate that, like eliminating those digital repetitive tasks that are just boring for anybody. So if there's a tool that is able to do that for you and you're able to be more productive in something that is more useful, then I think that's a win-win situation for everybody. And when it comes, for example, to programmers, a lot of people, especially at the beginning when ChatGPT came out, thought that programmers are going to be replaced by AI. But I don't think that's ever going to happen because uh, you are never going to have a perfect product. There will always be imperfections in the output from the AI, and so you always need an experienced programmer, for example, who is able to review that code and then give the green light and say, yes, this is actually good. Or you always need a human being actually reviewing it, making tweaks and changes to make sure that what's outputted is actually valuable. So, but again, all the predictions that people have made about AI have turned out to be kind of like the opposite of what happened, because the first things that got affected were actually creative things, like, for example, the generation of illustration and art with Midjourney. And, we'll just have to wait and see. I know that some people, again, are a bit afraid, and I've heard talks about leading experts wanting to stop the advancement of AI at least for 6 months, especially from OpenAI. But I'm not sure what kind of impact that will have. And again, we'll just have to wait and see, and then see what things might change or not. But uh, I have to say, it's really, really exciting. And when it comes to, for me personally, with how I use it, I just find it to be a very, very productive tool or sidekick.
I would completely agree with you with where you identify that it can be useful in some regard, and that there is definitely not elimination happening anytime soon anyway that we can see. You're still going to need human hands, human eyes, to be able to inspect what's being output by the AI. And I would even be, to the effect of creators as well, that it's like almost as if you can dream it, you can do it, has come to more of a reality when it comes to AI, where if you have the capacity and the imagination to input a certain thing. If you are, descriptive enough, if you are able to distinguish some of these desired outputs that where you can give it, shape it, I think that's going to be a great benefit to what we see coming out of AI. And so creativity is definitely not dead here. I think it's only going to elevate it. So I very much agree with your perspective here that it's going to be more of an assistant, I think, than it will be a deterrent for many of us. But I think some of those fears are real for sure. Like that some people are like, they're gonna take over, our jobs are gone.
I think I like the fact that there's a lot of discussion about this topic so that people really see what are the benefits and what are the side effects of using AI, which is quite important for anything, honestly, especially something that has a big impact technologically like AI.
So, CREA, this is a a bit of a segue, but you were talking about being productive, and I think you're probably one of like the most productive people in this space. I see you doing so much, and I know that you also do a lot of other things outside of Web3. But when it comes to how you stay consistent and keep building the CREA brand, what is it that you try to do, or what tips do you have for the people?
Yeah, brand building is something that is very, very important. And I think the number one thing that helps any brand or anybody having or doing a creative endeavor is to always give priority to quality. So it's always about quality for me than quantity. For me personally, I could be dropping a new collection every single day if I really wanted to, or every week or so. But it's really important that when you want to do something that is well received and sticks there for the long term, you always want to make sure that the priority is quality over quantity. And we see this everywhere. The reason why brands like fashion brands last for a long time, the ones that we all know about, same thing for cars or other things, is just about quality. Because with quantity, you obviously have the risk of the higher risk of having imperfections or doing things wrong. Or if you just focus on quantity, you might be too focused in turn on greed, which is obviously something not very moral. And if instead you focus on quality, you are happy yourself because you know that you deliver something that you can be proud of, and at the same time even the customer or whoever uses your product or service is going to be happy as well. So again, it's a win-win for everybody.
You go, Cass.
No, I was just gonna say I could definitely see where you're going with that, and one of the things that I love is you've been able to keep that quality with some of the collabs that you worked with. I already see we got the famous Zaid Kurtzi sitting in the listener section, and some of the stuff that you guys did I think was like super super cool. It was really really awesome to see.
Yeah, we have the man himself. Yeah, the collab that I had with Zayd was absolutely amazing. We had our collab for the first season, and I talked about this with Ferry recently, and it was such a fun experience because there's nothing more fun when an artist meets another artist, and you have just this huge sessions of brainstorming different ideas and just coming up with cool concepts. It's really fun and rewarding, and I think people are very happy with what we came up with. And I'm super proud of seeing Zaid working with so many other different projects and having new projects coming up soon. I saw that he's recently teased something. I'm excited to see what that will be. We'll just keep an eye out.
Yeah, definitely excited for that. But Also, still excited for your first drop. I go through your collection sometimes and my jaw is on the floor because they're all so cute, they're so nice. What was one of your favorite pieces? Is this something that you can talk about? And what was it like actually working with Zaid? I want to know because I lived with him for like 5 days and it was different.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And of course, some of my favorite wearables are the ones that we created together for our collab. Especially, the hats. This is something, again, that I mentioned to you recently. I think the hats are absolutely stunning. Even the weapons. Any of them, honestly, even the t-shirts, if I'm being honest. I'm very proud about the sneakers that I've designed, but also some of the, so for example, when it comes to hoodies, there are different categories of hoodies. And there's one edition in particular, one category in particular called the Dark Edition. It took me ages to design each one of those because the designs are so meticulous and finely detailed. And, I got so much inspiration from looking around me and different fashion trends. And so creating those hoodies, for example, was a really, really fun experience. And every now and then I see them in renders created by the community. It's really awesome to see them using them for like their own creative projects. And so, yeah, that's definitely super fun.
So your first drop was cyberpunk, streetwear kind of themed, and then your second was way more colorful, vibrant. What made you do that switch and what inspired you to go down that route?
Yeah, so first off, the second collection actually only recently dropped, and the holders that have received the tokens are still in an unrevealed state. So I'll probably be dropping some alpha now. But yeah, as I've shared on some of my renders recently, absolutely, the new season will be much more colorful and vibrant. We decided to go with a almost completely different aesthetic this time because, like you said, in the first aesthetic, it was a bit darker, more cyberpunk-ish inspired. And this time around, we went with something a bit more colorful. Also because probably we're approaching the summer, so we all love colors in this time of the year. But the other thing, the most important reason why I decided to go with this change is because I want to keep things fresh. Like I said, I think quality is very important. And when it comes to quality, another very important aspect is making sure that you always deliver something that is new, fresh, and original. And so if we kept the same aesthetic, I think we did a good job with the first aesthetic that came out in the first season. I think we did a good job, and I think we should keep it like that. We shouldn't really drag it out too much. And so this time around, we wanted to experiment something completely different. Not only the color palette in the collection will be different, but we also started experimenting with different types of wearables. So for example, in the first collection, it was mainly garments. So for example, hats, shoes, t-shirts, etc. But this time around, instead, we wanted to introduce new types of wearables. So for example, you have hairstyles. So if you have a clone that it's bald, like mine, for example, it's just a bald robot, you can obviously now introduce new hairstyles, which I know that a lot of people are interested in, and especially when I started releasing some of the like sneak peeks and renders, a lot of people were very excited about that. And now we've also introduced full body skins. So for example, in the previous collection, the season 1, which is also called Genesis, if you had a token, that token was a single garment or wearable. So maybe a t-shirt, a hoodie, a sneaker, etc. But this time around, it's going to be similar. So you're going to have the common and rare items are going to be single wearables. But this time around, we've also introduced full body skins. So with one single token, you can have a full remake of your clone. So I've shared some renders in the last few weeks and months, and some of these new skins could be, for example, a cool cyberpunk futuristic samurai, or like a space pilot. So it's really cool full body skins that can really change the aesthetic of your clone. And these are some of the rarer items in the collection. And it's something that we did to, create more rarity within the collection, and also to make something that we haven't really seen so far in the community. So that aspect of the new season, it was super exciting. And again, since I love creating new stuff and coming up with new designs, I really wanted to experiment new colors, new designs, new skins, new types of wearables, etc. So I'm really looking forward to revealing all the tokens.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was just looking back at the video that Cultivate put out, and I think one of the reasons I love it so much is because it just gives me that like Marvel across the metaverse universe kind of collab with the way that Zaid's clone has all of your different new items coming out on, and they just obviously killed that video. So yeah, I really love the direction you took creatively. It looks super sick. One thing I wanted to ask is like if you had any influences that you kind of lean on when you were building some of these collections out.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think I necessarily have one single person or entity that I can consider like my sole or my biggest source of inspiration. And oh, by the way, shout out to Cultivate with their new render and what they've been building is absolutely amazing. And obviously, it was super fun to have my puffer jacket included in the reveal trailer. But anyways, talking about wait, what was it that we were talking about? I just missed my my
You got
train of
distracted by
thoughts.
the Cultivate trailer again. You started reminiscing.
Yeah. I had to look it again. I have it right here open right in front of me. It's so good.
Yeah, I was asking about your
Oh, you were
influences.
talking about my inspiration,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Now I remember. Yeah, I don't have a necessarily one single source of inspiration. I think it's just a matter of just observing what's happening around you. You know, just browsing hours and hours in the internet and seeing what fashion trends are popping out, and maybe the ones that were popular in the past, or maybe the ones what's really fun is actually seeing, for example, maybe you're into sneakers, and so you type on your search engine sneaker future concept design, and you can see like these super talented artists coming up with super cool and innovative designs. That's also another very big source of inspiration, especially for the first collection where we went with a more futuristic aesthetic. And so obviously looking at what other people are doing, like they're seeing their creative process, it's really fun. And since we were talking about AI earlier, I think AI is actually a really good tool for brainstorming. I think that if anybody is trying to attempt something similar, you can maybe try using Midjourney to, add some inputs where you're asking, for example, futuristic shoe design, and you can come up with 4 different Midjourney normally produces 4 different renders, and you can also use that for your advantage to, see and get inspiration from AI. I think for that specific reason, it's also quite useful.
We actually had a Spaces on AI a couple of weeks ago, and that's the conclusion that we came to as well, that it's so good for getting inspiration and for brainstorming. Talking about brainstorming, I found logo design one of the most horrible, terrifying, and uncomfortable experiences when I was working as a graphic designer. In fact, I dropped out of school when it came to logo design. Like, I was loving the whole year, and then it came to logo design, and I was like, I'm out. How did you come up with your logo? And was it an easy process?
Well, I think talking about logos now will give you some sort of PTSD, will it? Well, I actually really enjoy designing logos. In outside of Web3, one of the things I've done is designing logos for small to medium-ish size companies. And so designing logos is actually something that I really enjoy. I'm not sure why. It's probably the fact that you can, you know, stick the entire meaning of a company in just one symbol. That's something that I find very, very interesting to study. And also, some people can get very, very creative with logo design. It's so satisfying to see. normally when it comes to designing logos for different companies or societies, it's always, I mean, at least for me, I find it always easy to do it for other people. But when it comes to designing logos for myself, it's always super hard for some reason, and you never seem to find the one that you really relate to, and it takes ages to find the one that you really, really like. And ironically, most of the time, if you really try to think about it and come up with a solution, and maybe spend hours and hours sketching ideas and stuff like that, that's when you don't get the actual idea that you like. Most of the time, you're probably better off just forgetting about it. And on one random day, maybe in the morning when you're like eating an apple, voila, you get the idea. It's always very, very random, or when you're taking a shower or whatever. And so, my advice is sometimes when you're really struggling with coming up with an idea, a creative idea, is to just, it sounds a bit counterintuitive to just not think about it. And sometimes when you're doing something completely different, that's when you get the idea. And for my logo specifically, I talked to friends, family members, and other people and asked them to come up with different logo designs. And even after receiving like 10 to 20 different logos designs, I just wasn't happy yet. And but then on a random day, I was just sketching different logos and just doing random sketches on a piece of paper, and that's when I came up with this logo for my Web3 brand. And it's a logo that I really, really love. I think it fits very well with the wearables, and especially with sneakers. I think it gives personality to the sneakers because it is an eye, and it almost feels like when you're looking at some of the sneakers that I designed, it almost looks like a living thing. It's hard to describe, but it's this logo that I have now. It's one that I really like, and probably one of the ones that I like the most that I've designed in so far. And it also mixes some of the other passions that I have. So, for example, one of the passions that I have is also car design specifically. And so, for the car enthusiasts, they may notice that the logo vaguely remembers the headlights of a Lamborghini Huracan. And so that was a part of the inspiration for the logo. And I also have a cat that I really, really love. And there's a particular picture that I have of her when she was like trying to hunt like probably her shadow or something. And the eye shape that she had on that video was absolutely amazing. And so basically the logo that I have now, it's a blend between these two things and other things. But honestly, I could talk half an hour about the logo creation and process itself. But I think this is like a quick summary of why I decided to go with this logo.
Aha, so apples are the secret to creating
Oh, you also got to
logos.
take showers too. That was the
Oh,
other.
yes.
Exactly.
So take showers, eat apples, and you'll be creative.
It's definitely great thinking times in the shower. Guys, I wanted to invite you up on stage, whoever's listening and is curious to learn more about CREA, because we've actually gone past the halfway mark and his time is super precious, guys. Okay, so if you've got any questions, please come up stage. We would love to hear from you. Anybody?
I was gonna say.
Oh, I saw CREA's mic was on mic, so I wasn't sure if he was going to talk or not. I thought he was right.
I don't know if he was, but I was gonna ask CREA if the logo, it does remind me a lot of like birds or like eagles, and I didn't know if you had like a thing for birds, but it sounds like you're more like Zaid and you're actually a cat person. So this is good to know, and I see why you guys got along so well now.
Yeah, that's definitely a factor, probably. Yeah. I've always been a cat person. I mean, I love having pets. I probably had all sorts of different pets, even like weird ones, like I had a chameleon once. But definitely cats are my all-time favorite. Sorry for all the dog people that love dogs. I mean, I'm sure I would love to have dogs as well. I just never had one. So, but I think cats and dogs are just amazing pets, and I love the fact that cats are also quite independent, and they have their own personality. And a lot of people joke about the fact that cats don't show love, but bro, if you own a cat, you can definitely say otherwise, and I'm sure Zay could say the same thing.
CREA is way too busy to have a dog. That's why he needs an independent cat, right?
Well, for that, lizards are great pets. If anybody's wondering, lizards are great because they only feed like one or two. I mean, depending on the reptile that you have, they only feed once or maybe 3 times a week. So it's quite good. I mean, they have a very low metabolism, so it's quite good for people that are very, very busy.
I have to know if you snuggle your reptiles that you have, because I think that's like the one element that I couldn't get past, like as far as owning like a lizard or anything else concerned. Like cat I can do, dogs I can do, maybe birds, because I don't know, they seem kind of snuggly, but I just don't know. I might be lost with the reptiles.
Yeah, and by the way, for anybody joining now, I think this is going to be such a confusing conversation. But yeah, when it comes to reptiles, it really depends. But if you own some reptiles, obviously don't want to be touched because normally they're also quite small and delicate. But bigger reptiles, like for example, the bearded dragons that are a super popular reptile pet. I don't own them, but one of my friends have it, and they love hugs. Like you can just put them on your shoulder, and they're just gonna stay there all day long, and they just don't care, and they love that heat coming from your body, because you need to keep in mind that they're cold-blooded animals, and so they need heat in order to function properly. And so obviously, if you put them on top of you, they get that heat from your body, and so they're more active and they like it. So that's a good example, I guess.
All this time I've been wanting a hamster so I can cuddle it, but maybe a reptile, Yobs. What do you think?
Yeah, can you get her a bearded dragon? This sounds like the perfect pet.
It honestly is. Oh my god, that would be so dreamy. But anyway, I've got my parent up on stage. Jace, hi Dad. How are you?
Sweetie, you can have a bearded dragon, but iguanas are much better. They actually cuddle.
Yay! Thank you.
No, I just needed to shout out to CREA for, looking after all of those underrepresented naked clones that Benoit, Chris, Zap, even Takashi never dripped out with clothing. So at least CREA's here, and I can finally put some dope clothes on.
Yes, sir. It's kind of alarming that you're coming in here naked.
It's a little bit of Dre Millie vibes. I got my shirt off just so I can feel like I'm ready to speak to everybody.
Yeah, this is just another example, though, of how inclusive the clones are. It embraces all lifestyles, whether you like clothes or not.
And I switch between the two. But CREA, I love your stuff. I'm stoked for the reveal, and I'll just hang out now.
Oh, thank you so much. And I kind of have the similar issue where one of the reasons why I never post my clone is because if you see it in 3D, like if you see the avatar, it's just such an ugly clone, I think, because the top part from like the neck up, it looks like a very badass clone because it has a pipe, sunglasses, studs, and everything. It's a robot and everything. But then it has a schoolgirl outfit. And so it's such a complete opposite. And if you see it in 3D, like in full view, it's such a weird clone to look at. And so one of the reasons why I created this project is to at least I could just personalize my clone a bit better. And so I think a lot of other people, maybe, like for example, they have a naked clone, or maybe they just want to experiment with a different hairstyle, or maybe just try some different type of wearables. That's where CREA comes in, and I'm happy to provide with that extra level of customization, and especially because you tend to see a lot of more people using their avatars for becoming VTubers or for doing content or just cool renders, promotional material, etc. And I want to offer people the chance to really customize their avatar more, since in Web3 it plays such a crucial part, because that's basically your digital identity. And the more you can tailor your digital identity to what you want it to be, or maybe if you want it to be similar to yourself, that's where I try to offer as many personalizational options so that I can then achieve that goal. And that's always been the main mission for CREA, just allowing people in Web3 to really customize their digital identity as much as they can.
Oh, CREA, we love you so much.
I was going to say, it actually reminded me a little bit of some of the things that the team had said about your brand on the NVIDIA talks. Well, did you get a chance to take a look at any of that or hear some of the stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Artifact for, one of the things that I love about Artifact compared to many other projects out there in the Web3 space is that they're always involved with the community and they love to share stuff that we design. So, for example, one great example that we have when I was working at Artifact is the Creator Challenge. I think that was such a great idea. It gives a spotlight to artists to customize loot pods and space pods, etc. And it's great that they're providing shout outs during these important videos to creators in the space creating these super cool projects. Of course, shout out to CloneForce as well. They're doing something absolutely amazing with all the lore and the cool designs. Cultivate, again, we briefly mentioned them earlier. It's just so cool to see so many different community members building new brands and new creative stuff on top of their CloneX avatars. And, I think from here onwards, we're just going to see even cooler and cooler stuff. I think this is just the beginning, honestly.
Yeah, and I was going to add to that as well to say, like, because, I think you were saying that, your robot is kind of funny looking, and which is so different. I don't know if I've ever heard you speak about your personal clone, but I feel like your clone set off a wave of digital creators, the VTubers, and some of the other people that we have that record their with their clone and use their clone as their identity. Vega is another great example of this. Like, the robots have really taken over for the face of, like, this is my identity, and people find a lot of pride in that as a digital avatar. And I feel like your robot was really at the prime, like, example of that, where people saw your clone move and, like, say stuff, and they were like, whoa, this looks so good. And also, Bald is beautiful, and I just think that's amazing that you have, like, a no hair, like, clone. I think especially the bald robots, they are so gorgeous, like, in my opinion anyway. But I think that's really interesting. You have a different perspective over yours.
Yeah, just don't look at my clone from the neck down, basically. That's what I'm saying. No, but again, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, but it's not just me. I constantly see new community members building absolutely crazy stuff. For example, during the first season, I not only had my collab with Zaid, but I also had a collab with Min, who is now working on his new collection, which, I mean, project collection, I'm still not sure because it's still in like a teaser phase, let's say. But it's super cool to see like all these super high-end AAA looking reveal trailers and promotional material. Is absolutely amazing, the amount of talent that is in our community. And also, by looking at other Web3 communities, I don't think there's another community out there that really has such a creative talent compared to when it comes to like designing stuff for the community and stuff like that. I think we're way ahead of other communities, and so that's really amazing to see. And like I said, I mean, every time I go on Twitter, I always see these new renders or people talking about a new project or something new that they want to work on. And it seems like these things are accelerating in a way. And it's amazing to see. And perhaps, yeah, I was definitely one of the first to do something like this. And it feels good to be a source of inspiration for other people to try and do their own things and maybe design their own stuff for these avatars. And so, yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
100%. And you have helped so much in building those foundations and inspiring everybody else to do their own thing. So thank you for that. We also have two amazing creators up on stage. We have Johnny and Yobs. Yobs, you were here first. Would you like to ask your question or maybe talk about the hamster situation? I don't know what you're here for.
Hey guys, what's up? First of all, I'm not here for the hamster situation. I'm here for more pressing matters and important matters. But yeah, like I would like echo a lot of the things that's just like been said, but just hype it up to like 100 because like people, well, not people, but like it's just the way I see everything that's gone down. CREA was like talking about him not really liking his clone. His clone was one of the first that like we saw. Well, like I saw on my screen. I'm talking as if it's like a nostalgic thing, but it is, man. The first clone you see on the screen teaching you how to like make stuff. It's like, hi, I'm CREA. Here's the tutorial. Yeah, for Artifact creators is like absolutely legendary. Absolutely legendary. Like fully started a lot of this off and um love for like showing appreciation to like what all of us are doing, like us and Cultivate, but people also need to understand that we're like a full team. Clone Force is like a full team. Cultivate is like a full team. Like CREA is just on his ones 10 toes, making crazy creations and just like running it up, and it's like crazy inspirational to see. He's just been on the grind, like literally there doing up CREA. It's like it's amazing to see, man. You're such an inspiration. I didn't really have any questions because I just wanted to come up and show some love. But yeah, man, appreciate everything you're doing. Your clone looks sick. Keep up the good work, my man.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate the kind words. And another thing that I wanted to add is, yeah, we're definitely a small team compared to other NFT projects. That's absolutely, that's for sure. But one person who is really fundamental in our team, and CREA wouldn't exist without him, is Aureliano. He's my dev, and he's a true legend in the space. For the people who may not know, he's actually one of the OG devs for Artifact. He's basically the guy who created the website that we used, feels like ages ago, when we got our mint files and when we converted them into our clones. Aureliano was the guy behind that and developing that website. And he also helped me develop my own project. And he's super knowledgeable on Web3. And now I know that he's working on so many other different projects in the community. And so, without him, CREA wouldn't exist. So shout out to him as well.
Yeah, I also just want to give a shout out to him as well because, like, let me tell you one thing for free, yeah. Any project, any dev work, any smart contract work, we're at like the beginning of this shit, yeah, and like we're at the early stages, and it's so incredibly difficult to pull off, yeah. All of the big projects during the bull runs, after the bull runs, like all the time, mints are going wrong everywhere. It's just the thing, mints go wrong, things get rugged, your timers are wrong, all of this, yeah. My man has executed this flawlessly. There hasn't been a single issue on the blockchain. Everything's been absolutely flawless. And that is an insane accolade to hold. So I want to shout him out as well. Incredible work, guys. You guys are killing it. Keep it going. I'm loving everything.
Yeah, shout out to Aureliano. I think CREA and I and some of us were talking beforehand, but he is like low key one of the core devs in this whole community, and I feel like there would be a lot of smart contracts that would not be going right, to Yabs' point, if it wasn't for this guy. So yeah, shout out to him. We got some others on stage. I see we got Johnny, Chaz, Ilan just joined as well. So I think Johnny was up next. Well, then we'll go to Chaz and Ilan. Johnny, what's going on, man?
Yo, family, what's going on? Hope everyone's having a great day. No questions. Honestly, just wanted to show love to CREA. Missed a little bit of the beginning part, but CREA, you know how I feel. Yeah, you were one of the first people that inspired me in this whole journey with Artifact and creating not only an identity for myself, but like creating 3D assets and all this other stuff. So just from beginning to now, and you having me included in your, since the beginning, it's just been an honor. So just keep doing what you're doing. You'll have my support forever. Yeah, just keep killing it.
Yeah, shout out to you too, Johnny. I mean, the work that you put in with your absolutely amazing renders since the beginning, you've also been an absolute legend. and an inspiration for me. Like with all the renders that we've been putting out or edits, photo edits, for the sneaker designs, like every time I see one, just my jaw drops. It's absolutely amazing what you're able to create, and it's amazing to see all the recognition that you're receiving from like the founders, but even from outside the community. It's really amazing. I look forward to seeing all the stuff that you work on. It's absolutely amazing. And especially at the beginning of the spaces, we were talking about Photoshop and the importance of learning how to use Photoshop. And I think you're probably the best example in the community to show how powerful Photoshop can be and how creative you can be with that software.
Yeah, man, that's actually crazy that you say that. Yeah, I guess I did miss that. But yeah, I mean, literally as now, it's like I was all Photoshop, now 3D because of this community, really. But then now taking 3D assets and bringing them back into Photoshop and then doing so many other things with them. And then bringing again back into Blender or bringing assets from Photoshop into Blender to overlay on images. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like they say knowledge is power, right? Just keep pushing yourself to learn. And this shit is just super fun.
Love it too. Photoshop wizards being so humble and kind to each other, because I know for a fact both of y'all have definitely inspired me a lot to look past making memes and do something a little bit more creative with Photoshop than just cutting clone heads off and sticking it onto the first funny image I saw. So yeah, huge shout out to you guys for that one. Let's throw it to Chaz real quick.
Hey guys, what's happening? How are you doing? Yeah, real quick. Since I love when people come up and put me on the spot, I can only do the same myself. So, CREA, my question for you is: are there any plans for physical wearables in the future?
Yeah, so basically, our whole brand identity, like we always say, was born in the metaverse. Basically, our is a NFT native digital fashion brand that is powered by the blockchain technology. And although we quote unquote live in the metaverse, we hope to push through and basically also deliver unique wearables as well, like physical wearables. Um, the only thing that I need to take into consideration is the type of wearables that I want to bring physically, because obviously some of the wearables that we've designed, such as weapons, like rocket launchers, that's definitely something that I cannot bring. So there will be distinctions between the ones that could be converted into real life wearables and the ones that just cannot be converted into real life wearables, such as weapons and or very hard to replicate wearables. So, but definitely that's something that we are keeping in mind because, like I said, I mean, when I design these wearables, I always design them in such a way that I would be like, these are the wearables that I would want to wear. And so honestly, I'm probably the first one who wants to see them in a physical version, especially like the sneakers or some of the hoodies, some of the hats. So keep an eye out. We will probably do an announcement on this in the future, but it's definitely something that we're considering because I think it's a very exciting opportunity to explore.
That's awesome. And although I'm disappointed I won't have a rocket launcher, I would look great in those joggers. So thank you very much.
Chaz, I'm right there with you. I was about to start fudding so hard because I don't get a Zaid rocket launcher or gun. That's just like all pointless. All pointless.
Well, I mean, look, I remember Elon Musk for his Boring company. He created those flamethrowers, and the way he was able to sell them is he did it. He called them what was the name? I think he called them not a flamethrower. I think that was the name. And so I'm sure there's like some some hack that you can use to make sure that people don't get pissed when you're trying to sell these type of items. But maybe the thing that I was considering is that we can 3D print them, but make them like quite big, and have the same color, same aesthetic, and everything. And so it would actually be like a cool like a little thing that you can maybe place on your desk or in your house. It could be like a very cool collectible that you can own. That's also something that we've been exploring. I don't think I've mentioned this. Having some of the items be 3D printed, but in a large scale, so that people can have them like small collectibles. I think that's also another very interesting idea that we want to explore.
Okay, I don't want. Hey, look, 3D print a full-size Zade sword. That's all at least that worked out. The rocket launchers, we'll let that be till season 2 or 3. But we got some hands up, and I know we're not going to skip over Ilan, so let's throw it to Ilan, and then we'll go to Ninja and Dre.
Thanks. Thank you so much. I'll be super quick. So I'm about to drive across this bridge. I want to just give CREA his flowers. I think I'm going to go ahead and represent like the other 99% of folks that, sort of came to Artifact and didn't have that sort of creative bone. But it is, and it has been people like CREA that have gotten me who I'm an old dude, and my learning days were sort of behind me. But whenever we got the 3D files, and then I'd type in CREA's YouTube stuff, and he'd be like, "Oh, hey, it's CREA," and boom, he's teaching you how to do all the things that you need to do to rig your clone and mess around with them in Blender. And it was really sort of inspirational, and it turned just an old dude that was sort of crotchety into somebody who felt like he was innovating and creating something really cool with the 3D files. I've of course been a massive supporter of CREA and Clone Force and Cultivate, and I love seeing all those guys up here supporting each other. I think it's just totally blows my mind how creative these guys are, and how open they are to share that creativity with others. And it's really incentivized me to go on a journey that never in a million years I would have thought that I would go on. So I want to give flowers to all those guys, say thank you so much for teaching us, and just being so awesome with the knowledge that you have and sharing it so openly and freely. So thanks a million.
Yeah, thank you again for the very nice, kind words. I mean, this is just what we do. We love to bring creative stuff to the community and just make everybody happy. And so it's so nice to receive this overwhelming support from everybody. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the love in here is immaculate tonight, because you're all just supporting each other and like pushing each other. It's what we wanted to see, and it's happening, and it's all coming together, and I love it so much. Another person that spreads a lot of love all the time is Ninja. Hello, Ninja. How are you?
Hey, what's up? What's up, Clone family? What is good? We in the house. Super excited to be in a space with y'all. I've missed my family. So there's a few things I wanted to cover. First of all, shout out to Ilan for being the crotchety old man that's in our space. That's one thing I love about us. We got crotchety old men, we got young people, we got it all up in the house. Want to give a shout out and just a quick little story. Because I think it goes to the testament of the seeds that we're planting and how they're growing, and how just watering and tending to your garden, and tending to the community garden, how it really just gives you a thriving, bountiful harvest. And we're seeing that play out. So before I got my clone, you guys had a lot of creator challenges. I still really didn't understand the ecosystem. All I had was a space pod and a loot pod, because I got the space pod and then I got the airdrop. And but I remember on the timeline, y'all were blowing it up with CREA and a whole bunch of other artists were blowing up the timeline with those custom skins and different things for their loot pods. And I just got to say, CREA, you sent me, and I collected quite a bit of your 3D art to put into my space pod. And I remember, like, as I was collecting it and also you were giving it away, I just remember thinking, like, what an incredible community that supports each other, that really is creating dope stuff, like integrating it. And those were the seeds of why I joined the community. And like, fast forward to now, it's like you've got your collection out, you've got one of the top projects in the space from my perspective, just A1 quality all the way around. And it just goes to show you, like, when you plant those seeds, you just don't know where or how they're going to land. And I was just looking at my wallet. I was like, let me go back into my wallet and look. And I have so many items by you, CREA. And I just want to thank you just for, creating a space, creating, being such an intricate part of our community, being so consistent. That consistency. Shout out to so many consistent people in this space: Anya, Kaz, Chaz, literally everyone on this stage, and so many people down there. Alt, Kuro, Yobs. Like, we're just such a consistent community, and I got to be honest, it really encourages me and my consistency and wanting to stay the course and not wanting to give up on certain things sometimes, because it can be hard and challenging. And I just want to give you your flowers, CREA, and just say thank you, because you were one of the people, along with several other people in the clone community, that were like some of the seeds of why I joined and why I'm here today, and I'm super grateful for it.
Oh, thanks for all the love. And since we've been shouting out everybody in the community, one other person that we definitely need to give a shout out to is Beb, because one of the reasons why I started doing wearables for the community is because he was doing such an amazing job for the loot pods and space pods, and that's also the reason why we became pod explorers since the very beginning. The work that he put in for customizing loot pods and space pods was absolutely amazing. And I remember that phase when it came to like designing pods and stuff like that, and creating all these cool accessories that you could add. That was really, really fun. And it was amazing to do giveaways and drops for people. And we're going to keep it up for this new project as well. A lot of new things are coming up. Wait for official announcements, but it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, we're about to just double team you with positive energy after Ninja going straight into Dre Millie. So I feel like I shouldn't have said double team this. Anyways, Dre, let's just take it away, my guy.
Dre, save us, Dre.
No, I'm gonna let that linger for a while because that's outrageous. But no, CREA, shout out to you, man. I've never had the opportunity to speak to you up until now, so I wanted to introduce my digital self. I think I'm a new kid on the block when it comes to the community, but I've seen you around since the very beginning, the very inception of things. So I just want to make sure that I took the time to give you your flowers, like Ninja said, because I've seen all the things that you've done thus far, leading up to this point. And those type of downloads that you put out to the world, other people receive, and it inspires them to do things in the way that they're supposed to do them. I always say that I'm not a 3D creator, but I do receive that inspiration from all forms of creation and innovation and imagination, and all the things that you are doing are just adding more fuel to my flame, and I appreciate that. So once again, just want to introduce myself. I'm Dre Millie. I come in and I guess we do twosomes, whatever Cash just said. But question for you. I have two questions, actually. One, did you have to do the hour icebreaker with Ferry and Cass? And two, totally separate question in a different direction. Where and what's the end goal for you with all of this? Is it that you want to create collections, on physical collections by yourself as a company, as an entity, or is it that you want to link up with another brand, another legacy brand, and start doing things in that direction? Like, I'm really curious just to see where all of this in your mind ends, which actually will create just a new beginning. But yeah, how deep does it go for you?
Sorry, can I just ask, Dre, was it really that hard sitting in a call with me for an hour? Was it that torturous?
No, it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. I just didn't know if that was the regulation for all guests, or was that like a new thing that y'all just put up? Because like, yo, Dre gonna be on here. Let's get him in here first and see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Because then when we got here, we was like, yo, I'm gassed. I asked all the great questions when nobody was around.
CREA, do you want to answer that one?
No, always had a great experience. I mean, like I said, it feels like the time that I worked for Artifact, it feels forever ago because the NFT space moves so quickly. But I remember the time working with Cass, Ferry, Beb when we were like the OG creator community team. I mean, it was such a fun experience, and it was all very new to me. And I miss those days. It was really, really fun, and it was fun, coming up with new ideas every week, coming up with these new tutorials, the Twitch streams that we used to do. It was really fun, and it's also very nice today to be on this spaces and just touch base and talk about what we've been up to recently. And when it comes to the future plans for CREA, there are definitely many things that we're thinking of, and many exciting things, absolutely. The thing is that I don't feel like I want to share too much information, because unless something is basically official and I know that it will happen, then I will start announcing it. So I can't really make any promises and overhype things or things that haven't happened yet, because it would just be unfair for the people listening or for the holders. But I can definitely say that since we're in the Web3 space, which is a space that constantly evolves and that is receiving a lot more attention, especially recently, there are many people, many entities, companies that we are aiming to collaborate with. Unfortunately, for now, I can't share any names. And also artists that we want to collaborate with. And as I mentioned before, one of our plans is also to expand in the real world and basically not only collaborate with in a way, Web2 brands that have some work in the Web3 space as well, but we also want to provide physical wearables. We're going to start with providing some of the physical wearables, and like I said, blending it with also some 3D printed items within our collection. And even when it comes to our digital drops, we're also exploring different ways to drop new wearables, because so far we've followed the season, let's say, structure, whereby we have season 1, season 2, season 3, etc., and we have airdrops in between. But we also want to explore new ways and new techniques to deliver these new wearables. And again, this wouldn't be possible without Aureliano, because he's the mind behind all of this. He's our dev, and we're both exploring really, really cool ideas in order to bring to light new types of wearables and new ways to customize your avatar and the space where your avatar can live.
Beautifully answered. Dre, since CREA didn't answer and he was being so polite, I will let you know that a couple days ago, I set up a prep call with CREA privately, just me and him, and it was meant to be half an hour, but it went on for an hour and a half. So some people enjoy it, okay?
I was actually being tortured. I couldn't leave.
Yo!
The truth comes out.
We've gone way over CREA's time. CREA, are you open to more questions, or should we wrap it up? Up to you.
I can wait for one final question. That's fine.
Ooh, who's gonna get it? Anya, Cass, do you guys have a question?
Oh, well, I was actually just going to give a shout out that I don't think anybody has given CREA yet. I think he is officially the first CloneX barber, since he is the first person to come up with clone traits that are going to be completely custom. So CREA's cuts are, I think we should have someone run out and like trademark or grab the .eth name real quick before he does, if you really want to level up on him, because he's going to need to, like, really take that branding to Web 2 as well. So yeah, shout out to CREA for being the first barber in the clone universe.
CREA is about to go silent just to get that all that branding done.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a Web3. There's always new possibilities and new opportunities. We'll never know. I like the new title, though.
Hey, I'm coming to you the moment I need to get my hair retwisted. I know my clone will have the best barber. I'll have the braids going, or some of the other cool items that you had. So yeah, definitely hype. Man, I feel like we can't let that be the last question and or and or comment.
I have I have a question. I have a question here. Well, and then I have a request to spin us out since we have gone over the hour mark. So my question is, with all of the creations that you either gave out to the community or you allowed for people to purchase and everything, those early items that people decorated their pods with, is there a favorite that you have of all of those? I can personally name mine. I liked your Lime Gang soda pop little one that you made. But yeah, I'd like to know what your personal one is, and then I'll make my request after you.
Oh yeah, the Lime Gang soda pop can, that was amazing. Yeah, I remember that one. When it comes to the loot pod collectibles, I think probably that's a tough question. But one of the things, I mean, I design all sorts of different items, from, stuff that you could put on top of your bed, like different bed colors, or maybe like different accessories or stuff that you can use to decorate your loot pod or space pod. But I think the thing that I enjoyed the most designing, and probably the items that I like the most, are probably the skins for the loot pod or space pods, because it really changes the overall aesthetic and vibe of the environment if you change the skin. And so one of the ones that I particularly liked were the matte black skins for the loot pod and space pod. I think it gives a really cool finish to the loot pod. And since recently Artifact has dropped new content regarding loot pods and space pods, we are trying to explore new opportunities with those spaces as well, and do a blend between wearables but also accessories that you could use to personalize your loot pod.
Oh, I love that. I think I definitely I miss all the skins, the loot pod and the space pod skins. Those were some incredible creations for sure. Thank you for sharing that with us. And then, unless we have any other questions, when they are all done and when we are ready to go, will you sign out with your catch phrase that we're all used to and that we love? This is CREA. Will you say it when we get out of here?
Sure, I can say it now if you want to. We should probably also play like one of the music, like little songs that we had during those YouTube tutorials. But anyways, I'll go with it. It's hi there, it's CREA.
It's actually bye. It's CREA. This has been such a lovely spaces. I've enjoyed it so much. CREA, I don't want you to leave. I don't know if you want to leave us with something inspirational, last words, as Cass always says.
Yeah, I mean, to sum up what we've been talking about, especially at the beginning, like when it comes to, one of the things that I do a lot is using software to make creative stuff, so 2D and 3D software. And like I said at the beginning, if you want to learn how to use these new programs, which is basically what I've been doing at the beginning when I was working for Artifact, is trying to teach people how to use programs. And so if I want to give another piece of advice linked to that thing, is, like I said, if you want to learn a new program, make sure you have a goal in mind. Make sure you want to learn that program for a specific reason. For example, you want to learn how to use Blender to then make shoes. If you don't have a goal in mind, or like a specific thing that you want to do with that program, then it will be very hard to learn it and maintain that knowledge. While instead, if you want to do something very, very specific, it will be much, much easier. And you're going to wake up, start using that program again with a lot more enthusiasm, and you have the motivation and you know why you're learning that program. And earlier we were also talking about AI. I think it's just good to stay positive. And I know that there is a lot of skepticism, a lot of fear right now with AI, and the fear of it replacing like creative jobs and all sorts of other jobs. But I think it's actually such a very powerful tool to make us more productive and actually get rid of the repetitive digital tasks that we just all don't like anyways. And so I think that if we use AI with that purpose in mind, whereby we can use it as a more efficient tool to make us more productive and do the things that we like more, then I think it's going to be quite a good tool to use in the future. But of course, like I said, it's always good to be a bit to have that slight level of anxiety and just, keeping an eye out and making sure that we're not just using, this is more for like a general discussion. Like, it's important that people put doubt in AI, because I think we don't want this technology to accelerate too much to the point where it's out of control. But again, I think that if you are using it, for example, if you're using ChatGPT, Midjourney, or all sorts of other different AI tools, I think those can be actually very, very useful for you. And if you learn how to use them, they can really boost your productivity and get rid of all the little repetitive tasks that we all don't like anyways.
And with that, beautiful words of wisdom by CREA himself, I want to thank CREA for giving us your time, first and foremost, and for everything that you've done. And for my co-host, Cass and Anya, and everyone who came up to speak or even listened. Thank you, guys. We will see you next week. And I'm going to close it with a song by a fellow clone called Bloomy, and it's called Leave Me Alone. 인생도로 달리니 심하리 그린 게 like me 우린 해가 뜨면 물어봐 비왔니 추억은 많아 또 팔지나 말자 또 한 잔 고 두 잔 또 한 잔 고 두 잔 No limits on these takes like 대충 달려도 난 찾아봐야 찾을 수 없는 Okay you gon' catch up 이 첫걸음 근데 언제쯤 yeah. It's blooming as old hey now outside what you doing